All right. I'm going to do my best to put on the Carlos accent. Jim, I'm super excited to be here, and thank you for sharing the stage with me.
Great to be here, Jay, and it's wonderful building.
Amazing. You know, last year, I took my very first ride in a self-driving Waymo. It was Jaguar. I was still petrified. But putting that aside, I was thinking about that experience, and it just felt magical. And it was not just the car, it was not the machine, the interiors, but it was the invisible software that made the entire experience possible. And as I reflect on that, companies like JLR are increasingly playing at that intersection where physical engineering is increasingly powered by sophisticated digital experiences. And you've been leading it from the front at JLR. Do you want to tell the audience what you do there? And what was the problem space that you are looking at right now?
I'm glad that journey was safe and successful for you, by the way. Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Kennedy. I lead mobile experiences and connected vehicle digital platforms at Jaguar Land Rover. Before that, I ran a connected vehicle platform from the ecosystem side. So I've seen the challenge from both inside and outside the OEM. When I stepped into the role, the barrier wasn't speed or ambition. It was decision quality, held up by poor systems and poor information. We had millions of customers and very little signals about where the mobile experience was breaking down and why. At that point, digital experience stopped becoming an execution problem and became a product and platform problem. We needed the ability to see, measure, and experience at scale across our brands, markets, and vehicles.
I'm curious for an industry that has always focused on the specs of the physical product. Why is digital experience a strategic priority for you?
Yeah, so at JLR, we increasingly see ourselves not just as a car maker, but as a luxury experience maker. In modern luxury, digital isn't supporting the brand. It's one of the clearest expressions of it. Luxury isn't declared, it's felt through interactions that are intentional, effortless, and unmistakably elevated. Our clients already live in beautifully orchestrated digital ecosystems. They expect the same calm, clarity, and seamless integration from us. When a digital moment feels clumsy, it creates a subtle erosion of that emotional certainty about our brands. And that erosion compounds quietly at scale. And that's the shift, Joy. Digital experience is now a leadership accountability. Every touch point must feel crafted, considered, and confidence building.
I'm curious, what were the metrics or the early indicators that told you that digital needed leadership level attention?
Yeah, so 3 or 4 years ago when I joined, we had, can you believe it, 58 disconnected apps. We had little analytics and an average store rating of 1.2. Today we lead those OEM ratings with high scores, but more importantly than chasing stars, we saw a huge opportunity. As a customer refreshes their vehicles kind of every 3 to 5 years, we had the opportunity through apps and platforms to release hundreds of times a year. We found by decoupling software from hardware, we could dramatically accelerate customer experience improvements.
I can relate to that. My 8-year-old Tesla doesn't feel that old anymore because every month my experience is getting better. Jim, you've been working with Fullstory for over 4 years now. How has product decision making changed now that your teams have access to behavioral data?
Yeah, so over the last sort of number of years at Jaguar Land Rover, we've really been growing our experience and platform capability. We started those roots in Manchester, and now we've expanded all over the world. Manchester's given us access to hundreds of thousands of professionals and 5 world-class universities. And through JLR's strong culture, we've onboarded some great new talent into the organisation. Traditional analytics used to tell us what happens, but not why. Behavioural insights have started to show us things like hesitations, retries, abandonments, the moments dashboards often didn't show. Behaviour data didn't just add insight, it started to remove debate. Suddenly we weren't arguing about intent, we were seeing reality. That changed how we prioritised almost immediately.
Can you give an example of a decision that you made thanks to this data?
Yeah, of course. Hopefully people can relate to these sorts of things. So we built what we call a conversational carousel on the homepage of our app. It had elegant motion, it had thoughtful content, it was hierarchy, perfectly, we thought, done. It was loved in the Figma design reviews. But when we pushed this into our beta release, Fullstory certainly revealed some brutal truths. Customers were scrolling to one tile, just one, if you can believe that. So everything we thought was critical was actually staying invisible beneath the surface. That's when we made a decision to choose between being design-led or outcome-led. We rebuilt that actual behavior. So first of all, we reprioritized the content that the customer saw first time. We personalized based on the behavior from what their previous sessions were showing, and we simplified the entire flow. And when that behavioral data started to light up through things like deeper scrolls, more interactions, and higher completion rates, then did we scale that feature. That moment took us from we think to we know.
Yeah, I love it. Prioritization becomes so much easier when you can actually see how customers are experiencing your product. That brings me to the big challenge that your team is tackling right now, going from 58 apps to a unified platform. At its core, what was the problem that you're trying to solve?
If you can believe it, it wasn't a technology consolidation exercise. It was more about reducing cognitive load for our customers and reducing decision friction internally. We found that when a customer is confused, it usually means our organization is, and teams aren't working across the business. We therefore reframed everything around 3 layers: customer experience, platform capability, and value creation. This really started to move us from thinking about individual journeys to really starting to think about joined-up moments.
Yeah. As someone who's led product in 3 different companies now, I can imagine going from a disjointed system to a single platform is very challenging, and you need a framework to really make the hard decisions when you need to hold the line. In your case, what was your experience like? Where did you have to hold the line when you were trying to consolidate?
Yeah, so probably the hardest product trade-off we had to make was thinking about securing the platform over features. I'm sure everyone in this room has the same pressure. Just one more feature for one more team, I'll build something to be bespoke. But we've found that bespoke just doesn't scale where platforms do. So we created 3 non-negotiables for the transformation. We started building design systems over one-off designs. So everything became a design component that we could reuse across our brands. We had configuration over code. So we started to think about how we could build the feature and use things like release management and release toggles for what we could deliver to different brands. And shared services and platform services are the backbone. So everything that we build is built underneath reusable modular services. We stopped thinking about one app and started to think about one experience system. From that platforming system, brands are able to express themselves through things like theming and content, not code forks.
Yeah, hearing you talk reminds me of my time at Amazon, where for every project, we used to start with a set of tenets and we would debate the crap out of those tenets. But then once we had them in place, it made decision-making so much easier. With platforms, it's very easy to trick yourselves into building something that's super elegant, but that really doesn't move the needle when it comes to customer experience. How do you make sure that, your every step is grounded in real customer value?
Yeah, so I think we put a safeguard in place. I think that's quite simple. It's design journeys, not pages. So if I can give you another example. So we brought together our EV charging app and our care app into our one app. Now, the simple thing would have been to lift and shift those as separate pages within that app. But that would have just recreated the fragmentation we were trying to solve from having them separated. Instead, we ask ourselves the question and the frame: what is the customer trying to do in this ownership journey? We can see that charging is high frequency, high interaction. The care product is low frequency, but high urgency. And in fact, these 2 journeys intersect. Imagine you have a charging failure. You need to trigger the proactive care straight away. So we built unified capabilities into our platform. So we had charging services, proactive care services, and intelligent services. We then let the UI orchestrate these into seamless ownership moments. Real behavior decided then what we shipped. So customers must complete, engage, and get the value before we scale anything. We moved from designing pages to designing joined-up moments.
Jim, you're doing a fantastic job giving me some talking points. We are in the market for a car. and I'm leaning Land Rover. My wife's still Tesla, so thank
Oh,
you.
we can certainly help you out there, Joe.
You've been through this massive transformation for the product leaders here in this room. What are some of the lessons that you learned that you want to share with them?
Yeah, so quite simply, I think fragmentation is rarely a tech problem. It's an operating model problem. That's where it stems from. Behavior upgrades every conversation. It moves you from opinion to evidence. And platform discipline, whilst it's uncomfortable in the short term and creates work, it is essential to long-term scaling of those digital experiences.
As I hear you talk, I don't think this conversation is just about apps or even about platformization. I feel like it is about building the conditions to make better decisions at scale. Right? And that brings me to the question that's top of mind for most people here in this room. How does AI change the game? From your vantage point, Jim, what do you think? How is it changing the job of a product leader?
Yeah, so I think AI on its own doesn't create value. It amplifies the systems that you've built. So we sure as hell better make some good systems. If the signals are weak, AI is going to stale that uncertainty within the brands. Behavioral context is what's making AI useful, and that's by grounding predictions in real intent rather than averages.
Can you make this even more practical and leave the audience with a few thoughts on what can we all do walking out of this session?
Yeah, so I'll give you my personal view. My role's changed from really managing backlogs to designing systems. I'm seeing leaders who struggle are those are the ones that are using AI just for answers, whereas the leaders that are succeeding are starting to design better questions, and those are the ones that are grounded in behavioral context and intent.
I love it.
So, Joe, let me try and flip the tables. You've asked me a lot of questions. Maybe I can ask you one. From what you're seeing across organizations from across the globe and how you're working with Fullstory, what's separating teams that are really unlocking value from AI?
Yeah, Jim, I'm fortunate to be working with hundreds of companies that are trying to use AI to create value. And what I see differentiates those that are getting value versus those that are still trying are three things. Number one, AI is intelligent, but it's blind. And what I mean by that is you can put AI on all your pages, all your products, all you want, but unless you give it the right context, it is operating on averages and not customer intent. The second thing that differentiates is precision and timing over the quantity, right? You can get a ton of insights, but the companies that are really getting value out of it are acting on it in real time. And the third thing I'd say is people are operationalizing insights, right? So seeing insights on a dashboard is not sufficient. You know, taking action in real time and changing the customer experience and making it a part of your product is what differentiates the customers. So, Jim, let's leave the audience with the key takeaways from your experience.
Perfect. Thank you, Jai. Thanks for being here. So to finish for myself, I've got four main points I'd like to make. First, digital experience quality is strategic. It's shaping how the brand feels every day. It's no longer just cosmetic, it's fundamental. Behavioral insights are giving us the confidence to design moments, not just pages. Those that are intentional, effortless, and emotionally resonant to our customers. Platform discipline is giving us the leverage to deliver that consistency across every brand and every journey. And finally, AI simply amplifies the foundations that we build. It's quietly empowering when it's strong, and it's exposing the cracks when it's not.
I love it. That's a powerful place to stop. It's not about adding AI, it's about building the foundation for AI to create value. Jim, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me here.
Thank you.
Bye.